Hear me out before you comment about how I'm a bitter, disabled person who can't take a compliment. Hey everybody, I'm Amber, a disabled gal, here to reveal or remind you that you're complete in Jesus Christ alone. So, inspiration and disability. There's actually a lot of disagreement about this topic, even within the disability community. So, I would just ask for your grace as you're watching this, going into it knowing that there is a lot of differing opinions about this. So this video is meant to be my perspective as someone living with a disability, and also towards the end, I'm going to talk about this issue from hopefully a Christian perspective. So this idea of being inspiring, or, people saying, you're so inspirational, you're so inspiring, this is often said to someone with a disability who's not doing anything particularly inspiring that, would be considered inspiring if a able-bodied person was doing it, but just by the fact that we are disabled, that makes it inspiring. So the complicated thing is this is meant to be a compliment, and the person saying this often has no intention of being offensive or saying something harmful. The thing is, though, this idea of you being inspired by us for seemingly no reason, it can actually make us feel very small. If my very existence is brave or inspirational, then the logical implication of that is my existence isn't expected. Or maybe even worse, I shouldn't exist. Now, when I was a kid, like I'm talking younger than 10, it was hard for me to articulate why I didn't like being called an inspiration, and if I'm being honest, it's even hard to articulate it now. I do just want to point out, though, this idea of not liking being called an inspiration due to a disability, this is not some radical left-wing thing. Like, I was feeling uncomfortable with it at a very young age before I even knew anybody else was uncomfortable with it. I actually have a fuzzy memory of one day I was very upset. I was crying. I was probably around maybe 7 years old, and I was talking to an adult family member. And I remember as I was crying, I was telling them, I don't want to be an inspiration. I think before that, this person was trying to comfort me by saying, a lot of people are very inspired by you, you matter, things like that. And, I think that's when it came out that I just blurted, I don't want to be an inspiration. And after this, the person said, I actually understand why you don't want to be an inspiration. And this was a very long time ago, and like I said, the memory is fuzzy, but that was the gist. And I think that this person was actually my dad. I actually just talked to him to see if he remembers something like this. He says he doesn't remember that specific account, but he does remember conversations like this over the years. And he did share with me from a parent point of view, he would have people coming up to him saying, you're so brave or whatever for having a child with a disability. And he said he kind of had the same feeling, that I do. And his response was often, would you not do this for your child? It's kind of just a confusing, strange thing to be called brave for living with something you didn't actually choose. And yeah, I didn't choose my disability, so it's kind of strange to say I'm brave for living with it. On one hand, I do appreciate that people, are acknowledging the extra struggles. Although usually people don't realize a lot of our struggles are actually problems in society with a lack of accessibility, a lack of services available to us that would allow us to live more independently. And ironically, people that feel inspired by disabled people often aren't doing anything to fight for our dignity or accessibility, nothing like that. These people are often even dismissive, when we talk about these societal issues, like maybe air travel inaccessibility, or how accessible vehicles are so expensive, or how it's very hard to get services, care services that we need, and things covered by insurance that we need, and the list goes on. They're often very dismissive of these problems. But yet, these same people are inspired by us. It just all feels very disingenuous. And it seems like a very self gratifying type of thing. Like, oh, I'm inspired by you because your life is so terrible, and now I feel better about myself. If you're at all familiar with the disability world, you may have heard the term inspiration, PORN. That's what it's called. And the term has that for a very intentional reason. So this term was coined by the late disability activist and writer Stella Young. She describes it as the objectification of disabled people and their experiences to the benefit of non-disabled people. So yes, this idea of being inspired by a disabled person, but yet not actually, caring about their dignity as a human being. So obviously this isn't a sexual kind of thing, but, she's comparing the objectification and the very self-gratification nature of this idea of being inspired by disabled people. Often, disability activists will say it's fine to be inspired by a disabled person, but not because of the disability itself. Like, you can be inspired by their work or just, whatever. But when you start to be inspired that they're disabled, that's when it starts to become dehumanizing. So I have to agree, I'm not a fan of being objectified in any way. Now, I want to talk about this from a theological perspective a little bit, and I realize if I have any, secular people watching this far, I'll probably lose you right about now, but maybe just stick around and see what I got to say, if you will. So what I am a-okay with inspiring people to do is follow Jesus. If I inspire you to follow Jesus, that is amazing. That is such an honor. If the Lord uses me in that way, praise be to God. Now, this might sound a little bit controversial, but let's say it even goes something like this. Let's say somebody looks at me and thinks something along the lines of, you know what, even with her disability, she still loves God, so I have no excuse not to love God. Honestly, me and my flesh, that makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but for the sake of the kingdom of Christ, I don't really care what makes me uncomfortable. If the Lord uses that situation for his glory, still praise be to God. Who am I to say that he can't use whatever circumstance to draw people to him? In John 3 verse 30, it says, he must increase, I must decrease. Disabled people want to be inspiring for their accomplishments, not their disability. But from a Christian perspective, nothing that we do, nothing we accomplish is actually worthy of inspiration apart from Jesus Christ. I'm not saying we can't admire people, assuming we're not putting them on a pedestal. What I'm saying is it's dangerous to think of ourselves as actually worthy of inspiration. In Isaiah 64 verse 6, it says, "All of us have become like one who is unclean, and all of our righteous acts are like filthy rags. We are all shriveled up like a leaf, and like the wind, our sins sweeps us away." It is only possible to please the Lord with Christ. The Bible says that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. You know, when we're looking to our own accomplishments, saying that we are worthy of praise, that is a very self-righteous posture to have. A criminal can't go up to a judge and say, "Hey, judge, I know I did all these terrible things, but, also, I volunteered. Look at all the good that I did. Won't you just pardon, release me because look at all the good I did?" The judge is going to say, "No, justice has to be done for the crimes that you committed. It doesn't matter that you've done all these good things. That doesn't cancel out the bad." And the same is true when we try to present our own righteousness to God. Without Jesus, our righteousness does not matter. It is only when we put our faith and trust in Jesus, in his sacrifice on our behalf on the cross. He paid that debt. The penalty for our sin, which is death, he paid that. And the resurrection is proof that it was accepted by God. The resurrection also proves that one day we will rise again. I encourage you, if you haven't put your faith and trust in Jesus Christ, don't delay. Do it today. There's nothing to wait for, but there's everything to lose if you do wait. Death is always knocking at our doorstep, and we never know when it's our last day. It doesn't matter how much our own righteousness is inspiring to others, or even if our disability is inspiring to others. Ultimately, what matters is, what do we do with Jesus? When we stand before God on Judgment Day, he will ask us that. What did you do with my son? And when we're standing there, we'll either be naked in our sins, or we will be clothed with Christ's righteousness. I didn't expect to get a little emotional here, but the gospel is just such a powerful thing. So I hope this video was edifying to you. Please share it so that other people can not only hear a perspective about this inspiration thing, but also so they can hear the gospel. My mission is not only to talk about disability things, but also to talk about the gospel. And I think it all interconnects together. There's such a profound theology, even in disability. It's fascinating. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video was edifying to you. And thank you so much to our supporters. You guys really mean a lot to this channel. Please comment any thoughts, topic ideas, and God bless.
The video you just saw was made by Fallible Christians.
Although we diligently seek to represent the God of the Bible accurately, please understand that we are still being sanctified.
For absolute truth, please refer to the Bible.